for our audience, we have Lynda here with us. She's a very savvy landwoman. At least that's how I perceive her. And she's been in the game for a long while. I know her personally. We're not new to each other, so I can vouch for her not just being legit, but uh, a superwoman would probably be the first thought in mind when I'm thinking of Lynda professionally. So thank you for coming today, Lynda.
Thank you, Doron. It's been my first podcast, so here we are. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Poor you. And it has to be with me, right?
Well,
But
why not start with the best, right?
hey, you get what you get, and you don't get upset, is what I tell my kids at the end of the day. So thank you for that. It's going to take a minute for my ego to recover from it, but I'm sure I'll be okay. Lynda, why don't you tell us, how did you get into land acquisition? I'm sure that's going to be an intriguing reference point for our audience today.
Yeah, I'll try not to bore you with the long story, but the short story is I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and I decided I wanted to get into real estate for the last 5 years of my career. Whether that'll be five more, who knows? But for the last 5, I wanted to get into real estate and joined Sub2 because of Rhea Campbell, a friend of mine that I've known for 20 years, and saw the great things she was doing. I'm like, what is this thing you're doing? Sub2, join, you'll thank me for it. So I hopped in, and when I joined Sub2, I really wanted to find my lane. And I knew enough about myself that I could go down the lane without actually doing the thing. I could go down the fix and flip lane, capital raising lane, all these different lanes by learning about it, but not necessarily doing the thing. I knew enough about who I was. So long story short, went with Jill Jensen, to another Sub2 person, to a capital raise event where I met my business partner, Daniel. Daniel Bear, amazing human, has taught me so much about the land space. He's been in land for about a decade, and he does land flipping, which is a whole different story of land developing or land subdividing. And so the partnership I have with him is to take down the larger subdivide and development deals. So he creates the leads, I close them, and we work on the subdivide deals together. So I've only been doing land for about a year, but I've learned so much just because I've had this springboard of someone with a decade worth of experience. So it's been a couple deals under our belt right now, and it's been really fun.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds amazing. There's a saying going around in our community. It's not the how, it's the who. And in full transparency, I do remember saying that to you over the phone on our last conversation. But just for the sake of driving value to our audience here, that I always try to stay focused on doing so on all my podcasts. Why don't you just outline briefly the differences between land flipping and land development?
Yep. So land flipping is when you buy a piece of land, let's say 5 acres at $30,000, you turn it around without adding any value at all and sell it for 60. So you're basically finding these parcels off market by lots of marketing, mailers, et cetera. The phone calls are coming to you by the marketing that you're doing. Looking for someone that has owned the land a long time, is tired of paying the taxes, just doesn't want the land, has no use for the land. They give it to you at 50 cents on the dollar. You sell it for double. And then land subdividing, there's a bunch of different variations of that, but a simple subdivide is where we started in the space. And so we'll take let's just say we have a piece out of just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, 62 acres. And then we broke it into 5 pieces. So 5 between 10 and 15 acre pieces. We resell it. Just the fact of surveying it off, cutting it smaller, you increase the value of the property. So we paid about $660,000 for this piece, and we'll sell it for 1.4 ish.
That's amazing.
Yeah, cost a bit to do the things, the soil testing, the things we need to do, but well worth the returns we're getting on this. And then on top of fast forward to the next phase would be development. of which I know that you are the king of that subject. So you could talk circles around me in that respect. But we just signed a contract for a piece in Montana where we're going to cut it into about 80 different pieces. And that's a full entitlement project that takes, 18, 24 months to go from start to finish. So that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. So, there's a lot of jargon in the land and development space, and I'm just trying to really simplify a lot of those words to our audience and just get them to the understanding of what is the things actually in reality are, because again, development, entitlement, right? There's like a lot of jargon that nobody really gets, and I just would love to go over some stuff with you as someone that viewed in our community and other communities as a land expert. So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How do you so you mentioned increasing the land value, right? Like, we know from what you just said that once you subdivide, you cut it up to smaller parcels, that automatically increases the value of it. I'm sure most of our audience didn't know that. What are other ways to increase the land value, and what would you say, um, the not the formula, but like a really high level framework of ratios? Like, you buy a land for 600,000, you subdivide it to 10 pieces. So you say, in your mind, framework wise, each lot is 60,000, but in reality, it's going to be 10% more, 20% more, because now that we sliced it, like you said, it increased the value. And then if we do this and that to it, it's actually going to bring it out by 40% or 30%. Like, take us through that real quick for our audience.
I don't know if it's necessarily a percentage. I think the most important piece is getting a really good dollar value or a dollar price for the land that you're buying. This piece, for example, that we bought, we initially had under contract for $850. I got them down to $650, only because when we went to perk it, we do soil tests to see if you can put, well or septic on there. And if it doesn't percolate well, you can't put a house there. And so when we went to initially do the perk test, it came back where 2 of the 5 lots weren't. So went back to the homeowner, negotiated a $200,000 discount on the land. Ends up, we sent the guy back out there to do a little bit more digging, and he did find some spots. So we got lucky there. But that's one thing. Sometimes people that split up the land don't even do that step. We went out of our way to spend the money to do that step so we can increase the value of the property even more. Had we not done that at all, we might have only, you buy it for $650, you might sell it for $1 million. So,
Right. So there's no like a formula to say, okay, I buy this for X. If I'm going to do Y, it's going to be worth Z.
Not necessarily, but there are things you can do, like I said, with the perk testing. Also, what we did with this piece, which again, normally subdividers don't do, is that we created roads through the property. 62-acre piece of land, you can't see the whole thing. So we made it big enough for a side-by-side. We put in some, little gravel roads in areas that the realtor can actually market the property, put some culverts in so they can go over the little creeks that are on the property. And that also is increasing the value of the property that you
Got
can
it.
actually drive
Yeah.
to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned like perking. So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, and again, we're talking very, very low level for our audience. What you're saying is that if the soil or the ground doesn't have any water penetration,
Mhm.
right? Perking is
Right.
perk, right? Then you're not able to put a sewage system, sewage tank in it,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. Yep. There are
Because
other systems you can do to get around that. They're not, they're more expensive. They're not as, people don't look at them as a good as good of an option if it perks well, but you can get around it. These drip systems that you can use as well. So it's not all for nothing if it doesn't perk well, but it helps.
Right, right. So there's no, if I'm hearing you right, there's no rule of thumb to say, um, once I get a land approved with a subdivision, rule of thumb, it's worth, you know, twice more or 50% more or 40%. There's no rule of thumb that we can give to our audience when they evaluate those deals,
Right.
right?
Right.
Maybe again, I'm just fishing here. You're the expert in lands, not me. That it will be, you know, from a performance standpoint, when you're analyzing a deal, it's going to be worth more.
Right. Well, it's just like comping a house. If you go to fix and flip a house, it's worth this. This is what I'm buying it for. All the other houses that have been renovated that are on the same block are going for X. So the same thing with land. We comp the 62-acre piece. We buy it for what we think it's worth, and we can buy it at market value. We don't have to buy it at 50% like the flippers do because we're going to add value to it. So that's one easier way to negotiate a contract when you're going to subdivide it, because you can actually buy it at market value or a little bit lower than market value. And then you just look at the area, see what is sold for 10 acres. And the 10 acres are always going to sell for more per acre than the 62-acre will. That's just the way it works. So it's just like comping a house. So if you're looking at, underwriting a project and showing an investor, what is this worth? Land is a little harder because you don't have a tangible house that you're looking at. But if you comp the proper acreages surrounding your property, it's no different than comping a house.
Yeah. So to the extent of what I know, and I'm not an expert by any stretch of imagination, when comping a land, because you mentioned the word comping, which is like a mega important thing to know when analyzing deals, right? Like if you don't know how to comp, then you're missing a big part of your analysis, right? You're mentioning like a 10 acre will be worth more than a 60 acre because of the size. So in your opinion, the computing done at a level of price per acre based on sold transactions, and I'm going to simplify this to our audience in a minute, is the wrong one to do. Because what I know a lot of people are doing, and this is me simplifying it now before you get to the answer, so people know what I actually asked, because a lot of our audience might be new to real estate. If you take last sold lands in a zip code, let's just say, and you have 5 transactions, again, let's just make this up, and then you add all the acreages of those lands, and you see basically what they sold per acre. That's your estimation point of value that you carry to whatever it is you're trying to learn what to offer for. Is that, in your opinion, a good practice when it comes to land, or a wrong one?
It is, but you have to make sure when you're comping the land that you're not taking a 1 acre parcel. Say a 1 acre went for 100,000 and a 10 acre went for 10,000. Say I'm selling mine for 10 acres each. I can't use the comp of the 1 acre. It'll throw everything off. You can't just average them out. You have to, look at an apple and an apple. So if I assume that an acre is going to go for $100,000, that's not the case. A 10 acre is not going to go for $100,000 an acre. It's going to go for 10,000 an acre. Much different.
That's a big difference. Wow.
So you have to look at an apple and an apple. If I'm going to sell my little pieces, my baby pieces for 10 acres each, I have to only use comps that are, 9 acres, 10 acres, 15 acre pieces that have sold, and use that per acreage. I normally go, below the acreage when I'm comping, maybe 8 acre pieces to 20 acre pieces. And I'll use an average of those prices. And I'll also look at the for sale as well as the sold.
So that's when evaluating at 10. So you'll drop as low as 8 and as high as 20. Yeah. I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right.
Yeah. And then I'll average out those prices. Of course, if they're like properties, if they're vacant with nothing on it, et cetera, you know.
Yeah, with the same zoning code,
Right.
right? Things like that. I am positive this was a profound thing for a lot of our listeners because, um, you know, a lot of people outside of the land world in real estate all saying, figure out your price per acre, and that's your price. And so thank you for that. That was very valuable. Um, I love to ask about wins. Tell me a win that you had, that stuck with you in your land career. Take us through it.
I mean, I would have to say this last deal that we did, negotiating down from the seller from the 850 price to the 660 price, just because the land wasn't perking. Obviously, we got it to perk a little better than we thought, so we probably could have paid the 850. But
How did you get it to perk better? I'm sorry for stopping you.
well, not perk better. So when you perk a piece of property, or the way that we do it anyway, say you're looking at doing 10, and again, road frontage when you're doing these simple subdivides is really important. So ours is like a rectangle. Here's the rectangle. Here's the road. Piece.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple. 5 pieces. So when we're doing the perk test, we only have them test like the first 3 acres of the 10. So this quadrant. And when that didn't perk, then you kind of go into the property this way. So once we went back, it still wasn't perking amazing. So we renegotiated. Then we had our soil scientists go back and re-perk it again. So, and we did find some spots that were perking better. So there's really not you're kind of wasting your money if you're perking the whole entire piece. It's not always necessary. You can usually find, in the first quadrant of the, 10 acres, a spot that will perk.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, this is a win because you were able to get it for a much better price despite not really having the leverage that the seller thought you had on him or
Yeah.
her, on
Yeah.
them, right?
And the piece became extremely popular. The seller that I was dealing with, he lived in Atlanta. The piece is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And you get to know these people, right? You get to know their stories and who they are and how long they've had the land and who they inherited it from. And they become your friends, right? Because you're talking to them so many times during the transaction. And he's like, oh, honey, wait till you see all the riffraff that's going to come out of the woodwork about this land. And just the drama that's come out of just the for sale signs going out in the front yard, and this guy that lives next door and this aunt that had this piece long ago wants this. And it's been hilarious. I mean, we had on, it's not sold yet. We're doing it via auction, live auction. But we had it on Zillow for 3 days and already had 1,000 views and 400 saves. And it's a really fun project to work on. It's been great.
So when he said what he said and the reaction that you're actually getting for it is because people are trying to buy land in an area where there's scarcity for land. I mean, what's behind that, you think?
It's a growing area. It's about a 30-40 minute drive from downtown Charlotte. And it's an area where there's very class A homes. It's a nice area, kind of slightly rolling hills. It's a great area that's not quite in the hub of all the development, but it's getting there. So I think people are seeing the potential of grabbing onto some of that land.
Got it. So it's up and coming.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
got it. Okay, that's great. So you put it for sale, and is there a strategy? Say you're going to only, and I don't know how many lands. I think you mentioned 5. I don't know if it's an example or if that there's actually only 5. Are you going to put all of them for sale one time, or are you going to do 2 at a time or 1 at a time? What's your strategy?
We decided to put them all up via an auction. It's an online auction.
Mm-hmm.
You can see real time what people are bidding
Yeah.
on. So we're doing that. Typically, you'd put a few up at a time and let those sell, increase the price for the rest of them. But for this one, our land and one thing that we found is very successful is hiring a land realtor, not just someone that does houses and this and that. Mostly, hire someone that does land. And there are a lot of people that do this, dispo their own, sell their own land. We find that you get a bigger, larger price, faster and more efficient when you're using a land realtor. And here's another thing that I haven't pointed out, but I think this is really important for someone that wants to get into land subdividing. So each state not every state has an exemption, but for example, North Carolina, where we're mostly looking at right now, they have a statewide exemption, which means if you take a piece of property and you subdivide it into 10-acre pieces or more, it's called a simple subdivide. You don't have to go before the zoning board, the county. You don't have to entitle it. All you have to do is survey it and put it on the market. In the state of South Carolina, it's 5 acres or more. So not every state has an exemption. We're working in Montana right now. There are no exemptions, unfortunately. So even if we wanted to just cut it into 10 acres, it's almost a full entitlement even to do that. So if you're looking to get into a simple subdivide into the space, definitely look at states that have exemption rules. And sometimes it'll differ by county. Not every county will abide by the state exemption, but most of them will. It's just easier to subdivide it without the
Yeah.
hassle.
Are you familiar with Brad Lee?
No.
So he has a very successful podcast for just entrepreneurs, and every time someone gives a profound statement that really is powerful and meaningful on his podcast, it's called, by the way, dropping bombs, right? So every time they drop a bomb, he has a button that I was thinking, I wish I had it when you said what you just said. Like you just dropped a bomb, golden nugget, in plain language, to our audience, and I'm grateful for that, because at the end of the day, tips and tricks for people are really, really valuable. So thank you for that. I'm really grateful for that. I'm sure our audience also appreciated that. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Lynda? What's your background? Like before you did real estate, what did you do?
Yeah, I've been in the hospitality space. I have a business. I'm a middleman between hotels and clients negotiating their contracts when they have conferences. So I just negotiate the deal. Deal is signed. Lynda's done, making commission off the hotel. Been doing that for a long time. Dabbled in a couple other things along the way, but nothing as serious as my hospitality business. And then I've always just had an interest in real estate. Never wanted to be a realtor, never wanted to work nights and weekends, just not my thing. And I was 25 when I started this first business, and I've come from
only 2 years ago. Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm old, but come from a long line of entrepreneurs. And so it was just in my blood, and I just ran with it and had, $3,000 in my name. I want to make this work. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and lots of cold calls, and here we are. But one thing I also want to point out, outside of who Lynda is getting into land is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. I could never, ever do this business without my business partner, Daniel. He is the brains. He is the integrator. He's the systems guy. And there are a boatload of systems that are involved in acquiring land off market. It's not like, I'm just going to call a couple of people that own land and get this deal. He sends out thousands and thousands of pieces of mail every single month, has VAs that qualify those leads. And once they get to Lynda, they're in this beautiful wrapped up little bow. And then my job is to call the sellers and close the deals. But it's not an easy process. It's one that I don't think I ever could have gotten into land without my business partner. I know Rhea Campbell hopped into it. She's Rhea Campbell, and she did all the systems and figured it out. But it's a lot. It's a lot to know, and it's a lot to learn. And I feel like I have 5 years worth of education in just a few short months because of Daniel. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, and you're spot on. The right people will really propel your success. And I always say that be very mindful who you partner with, not just because of the trustworthiness factor that everyone looks at, but also more of if you team up with the right people that you can leverage, just like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
their knowledge, expertise, and experience,
Yeah.
then you just supersized on everything you guys are doing together had they not been involved. But why are you saying it's not for the faint of heart? Like, give me an example of something that made you say that statement.
Because it's expensive. You have to raise the money unless you're going to use your own money. So
Hmm.
you not only have to find the deal, spend the money on the processes and the mailing and all that, which may come to fruition with, you might not get any deals out of it. But then once you close the deal, you've got to go out and find the $1 million and the investor that's willing to put up the money for land. This last deal, we used Eric Fuller. He's a little expensive, but he's super quick with his money and great systems. And boom, boom, we had the money in it just a matter of days. But it's I'm not afraid to put myself out there and do the hard things because someone hasn't the answer, right? I called you the other day to say, hey, we're working on this Montana project, and you gave me some really great advice of things that I really didn't even think of because I haven't developed land before. So I think you just have to be willing to do the hard things. And I'm not afraid. So I think you just have to have some guts to get in there, do the work, make your mistakes, and yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I know Eric personally. He's a great guy. Did you know he's a PhD?
I did not know that.
He's not talking about it. So here I
He's
am
a
in
guy.
front of everybody talking about it because he's not.
Yeah.
I like to get the shy people that do have the talent, the the value
Mm-hmm.
out behind the curtains where they're comfortable into the light. So super nice guy, super great good guy. Actually spoke to him yesterday. We were on a Zoom with a third person, and he's just a great guy. So kudos for you for engaging people that can really contribute to you, not just looking at how much they charge. Because he might be, and this is not a conversation about him, it's in general, you're getting what you paid for, right? Like you said, he's quick, right?
Yep.
He's fast. So if you don't have someone that's quick and fast, you might lose a deal, right? So you're paying a little bit extra, but you're getting what you paid for.
Yep.
So in my book, that's worth its weight in
Yeah.
gold, even paying the extra. And obviously you're wise enough to know that because you did it.
Yeah.
So again, this is just me speaking out loud to try to drive some value to our audience, because I feel that a lot of times people just don't look at things the right way,
Yep.
um, mindset wise, but also perspective wise.
And
And
we did have funding. We thought we had funding, and that fell through 2 weeks before the close. Two
why?
weeks. Um, I'd rather not go into it, but
Okay, that's fine.
something that was promised didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so,
So you're like, oh, I'm closing in 2 weeks and I don't have the funding. Oh my, got
yeah,
it.
had
Wow,
zero funding
pressure.
and the pressure. But throughout my relationships and sub two, just in the measly little 1 year that I've been doing this, I was like, oh, I know this one who lends money. Let's chat with him, see what he knows. And he's the one that introduced me to Eric. He goes, I don't lend on land because I'm not that risky, but Eric will. And so it was like, and I just happened to talk to him, like, hey, how you been? What's going on? So just networking through our community is just gold. You never know who you're going to need and who you can help. And yeah, and then here came Eric, and literally 4 days funding done. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So can you take me to the pitfalls, like if someone would want to either get into the land business or already maybe in it and are newbies, like what are the things that you think people should watch for, or maybe look at things a little bit differently than what you know that people are looking at, right?
I think if you're getting into the land flipping business, which is when you're buying it at 30,000, sell for 60, you have to spend the money to get the phone to ring, because the deals
Mm.
are not online. Zillow and land.com, I can find deals on there because remember, I'm adding value to the land so I can buy it at market value. I haven't found a piece that I've bought yet on online, but you have to make sure that when if you really want to get into land and you're serious about it. And I saw Rhea Campbell do this. We took a little course together that's not involved in Sub 2. It's another course. Joe McCall is the gentleman's name. And he'll actually refund your money once he teaches you how to flip land. You pay for the course as long as you've done, 20 proposals or 20 bids, he will actually give your money back.
Why?
He just wants people to win. He's just this guy that teaches how to flip land, and he has this whole course. And I mean, maybe it benefits him somehow by doing that. But
So no ifs and buts. You just do 20 what?
20, you have to write 20 bids on
Uh,
20 different pieces of land. If you can prove that you've done that, he will give you all the money back. I think it's $1,400. His name is Joe McCall. Rhea turned me on to him as well. She took the course. I took the course. I decided I didn't want to flip land because I wanted to do the bigger deals. That's where Daniel came in. And I said, all right, you continue to flip land. I want to slay these big dragons over here. And he's like, okay, I'll partner with you on that. But I learned a lot by taking this course. So
yeah. So you're, yeah. I mean, I get it. So as far as like what people starting or considering in starting a land career, pitfalls they should know about, in your opinion, is learning how to comp with this Joe McCall, or generally speaking, what are the things that people should watch for?
well, number one, if you're going to do it, you have to go all the way in. You can't just dabble in it. You've got to go all the way in because you got to spend the money on the marketing, and then you have to filter through the leads and all this stuff. So you have to have a system. You have to go all in. If you don't, you're not going to have the success. It's just the data shows you send out this many pieces of marketing, you get this many leads. You send out more marketing, you get more leads. It's simple. You don't send out any marketing, you get no leads. So that's number one. You have to spend the money to get the phone to ring. Number one. Number two, you have to have a system in place to organize all that stuff. I don't do that. You wouldn't want me to do that. We've got, a CRM that's well oiled that does all those details. So I feel like you need to go all in. If you don't go all in, you are not going to have success in land. You're just not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far, and thank you for that tip. So um I also advocate to either go full into things or don't touch them at all. You can't be halfway into something. Very quickly, you'll find yourself halfway into four different things,
Yep.
none of them of which will be at 100%. And that's just not advisable, right?
Right.
But pitfalls are more like things that they need to be careful from. Like, look at this, don't do that. Like, where do you see people either failing a lot, doing what, or maybe a different angle of looking at things from the conventional angle that people look like? What are the pitfalls you think in land are?
I think that people buy pieces that they think are going to sell quickly and they don't. Just because they're inexperienced at pricing it or knowing the demand of the area. You're going to buy a rural piece in podunk nowhere and just think you're going to cut it up into 5 pieces and it's just going to sell. Not the case. So I think knowing the markets and knowing the viability of that piece selling is really important. You can get a really good deal on it, but if it's not going to sell, it's not going to sell. And knowing that you have a due diligence period we write our contracts, so we have 180 days, no questions asked, we're out of the deal. We do the perk testing, we do all these things. If it's garbage, yeah, we spent the money doing it, but at least we're not buying the whole piece. So I think I've been really lucky to learn from someone that's made all those mistakes. So I haven't had to see all the mistakes. I'm probably not the best one to give you the greatest answer to that, just because I have such a good teacher in Daniel. But I can see those would be the biggest ones that I would think people would make the biggest mistakes, is buying a piece of garbage, or piece of land that no one can develop on.
Yeah. So other than the perk test, what other tests are you doing? What are you trying to find out during your due diligence period?
That's it. Perk and survey the land and make sure that you have the right boundaries. That's it.
So you don't really need 180 days.
No,
Okay.
no.
I'm these
On
are
a bigger development, I should say. Yeah. On the smaller ones, 90
okay.
is fine. Yeah.
These are guiding questions because I need to get our audience to basically not just follow along, but just not have a misconception that
Right.
uh, if it's not less than if someone says 60 days due diligence or 45 days, so I'm not taking it because
Yeah.
Lynda said, right,
Yeah.
just people tend to get hung on those things. And yeah, rural land, man, oh man, what a world of things going on with rural land. Any tips, any rule of thumbs with camping rural lands? That's a very good point that you brought up.
Yeah. It's sometimes hard because you can't find a lot of comps in those areas. One thing, not to totally segue the conversation, but one thing we're trying to start getting involved in, and we haven't quite marketed it yet, but getting into data centers and buying rural land for data centers. Again, we haven't, gone down the rabbit hole yet, but one thing we're looking at doing is talking with the companies that are building the data centers, and just, where are you looking? We'll go find the raw land, the rural land. That's an exciting new path that we're looking at.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
camping, it is hard if there's nothing in the area, especially like the one that we're doing in Montana right now. We can find smaller pieces that we're comping, but the big ones we're not finding any comps at all. We did get a good deal on this big piece too as well. It's 127 acres, but not a lot of comps, because in that area most of the land is gone. So we got a little diamond in the rough. Oh, here's one other tip. Pace has Prop AI.
Hmm.
Both the North Carolina and the Montana deal, both were found by Jen, the robot.
Yeah, for our audience, Jen the robot, basically, and Prop AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's a part of she's basically the artificial intelligence
Yep.
in Prop AI, calling people to schedule appointments, asking them, "Hey, are you interested in whatever you tell her to ask?" Let's just say if you're interested in selling your land,
Yeah.
for sake of simplicity. So she's just calling people and scheduling appointments for Lynda to talk to them, right?
And I think it
Um,
works well with land, because we target 65 and older, and people that do not live in the county
mhm,
or the state that the land is in.
mhm.
They're less attached to the land. And if they've done nothing to it and they've had it for 50 years and it's vacant, they're a little bit more probably willing to sell the land. And so, yeah, so Jen had interesting conversations with these folks.
That is amazing. How do you even start to prepare for a script for that? I mean, I also have Prop AI, and I use it for different things as well. And I can't even imagine how to build a script for land with that. And the script for our audience is basically what the AI is following
Right.
when she or he dials um, to people. That's amazing. So I want to go back to what you said about it's not just straightforward. You really have to have like softwares and systems in place. So what do you recommend for people to have when it comes to, other than the CRM, right?
Mhm.
Uh, what aids, what tools in order to basically do land business do you
Mhm.
recommend, um, for them to have, like system softwares? What do you guys what do you guys feel are good, and what do you use?
I don't really get involved in that process at all. I really stay out of that. But one thing that Daniel has done a really good job of is he has created this trifold, like really beautiful land brochure. My
Mm,
picture is on it, his picture is on it. And it's not just this flimsy little thing that comes in the mail and everybody gets it. We had a gentleman out in Utah. He said he has probably received, and he has like this gorgeous piece of property outside of Park City that we still are talking with. But he said he receives dozens because he has, again, one of the only pieces that are giant right outside of Park City. He goes, "You are the only flyer I have ever called on." So I think one of the most important pieces of this is making sure that whatever you're sending is beautiful and is well done. Um, Funny, I cold called him because Daniel had gotten the lead before I was even involved. He's like, "Oh, this one fell through the cracks. Call this guy." So I call him and we strike up this great conversation. He goes, "I have 5 minutes. I didn't mean to pick up the call. Who are you?" Tell him who I am, la, la, la. We end up sitting on the phone for 45 minutes. Get off the call with this guy, Google him. He's the president of Warner Brothers that I just spent 45 minutes
what?
on. I'm like, man, I'm so glad I didn't know that beforehand. I would have been so nervous. But really great guy. And yeah, we're still, I don't think we'll get the land, but it's expensive. But it's
So hold on.
beautiful.
So isn't Jill Jensen from Utah?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a no-brainer. Just send her to him. She'll close him. She closes anything. She's
Oh,
that good.
it's not the closing part. It's the dollar part. I had them pretty much closed, but not for the price that we could afford. But
Okay.
we'll see. But
Well,
yeah,
you know what Pace says. If it's not a price, it's terms. You give something for something, right? If
yeah,
you can give him the price he wants, but he got to give you the terms. Just you know, something to think about. That's amazing. Yeah. You're right. The visual does sell.
oh, it's yeah. He was an artist before he was in real estate, so he takes
So
pride in all
appreciated.
the details. Yeah, but he said that the guy said you are the only person I have ever called
So he
from.
called you.
Yeah.
It's not that you called him and he picked up the phone.
Well, he called us, and then I was following up.
Got
Yeah,
it.
he initiated the call, and that's how this land business works. It's not you cold calling anyone. It's you sending out the marketing and making the phone ring. Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You'll have to interview Daniel so he can give your listeners all the other really important details because I really am just the closer. That's all I do.
You're more than just a pretty face. I spoke to you multiple times before. I can personally testify that you're selling yourself short. That's not the case. But okay. That yeah, maybe maybe we'll get that happen.
Yeah.
Make that happen. That's amazing. So much knowledge and jams and value um, in a very short period of time. So that's really amazing. Um, so who is your end buyer, right? Like, is it developers? I know it's not only developers. Just touch briefly on who are you actually dispoing lands for? Like dispoing for our listeners, dispositioning, selling the lands for.
Mhm. Yeah, there's another little caveat in this. So for the Charlotte deal that we're talking about, those are definitely going to be people that want to put a little farmette, a little ranchette. They're taking 10, 15 acres and building, a 4-bedroom home. That is the buyer for this project. But we also have another exit strategy. So because this was a perfect rectangle with a road, I mean, it was the perfect project. Cut into 5 pieces, everybody has a way in, done, sold. If we get a lead on a piece of property that has small road frontage, maybe on this side and that side, and say it's 150 acres, that's a prime exit strategy to wholesale that piece of land to a developer. So it's another exit strategy that we have. We'll buy the piece, we'll get it under contract for, say, there's a piece that we're looking at right now in South Carolina that Pulte might buy. So we bought it for 1.4. Actually, it's still under contract because we have the 6-month deal, just so we can get the end buyer. So, and the seller's been super patient with us. So we bought it for 1.4. We're going to sell it to Pulte for 1.7. 1.4, 1.7. I think that's what it is. So just by wholesaling it, it's a $300,000 spread. We're not going to do anything to it. We're not going to develop it. We've gotten all the lingo from Pulte and the things that they want in the contract. We've put those in the contract. So we're still waiting on whether they're going to pull the trigger on that. But that's another way to look at a piece that's not a perfect rectangle. If you can't get road access to each piece, this is another good exit strategy is wholesaling it to a developer or developing it yourself, which we haven't done yet.
If you can't have an exit to a road from every side, is what you're saying.
Yes. Otherwise, it's landlocked, right? Then you can't get to your property.
Yeah, yeah.
Developer will then have to entitle it, which again takes 18 to 24 months. They put in the roads and they do all the engineering and all that. So it's just another exit strategy if you don't have a perfect piece.
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation about a subdivision of a project with someone who is really trying to, what's the words I'm looking for? Convince himself of a story they have in her mind, right? You've been around the block. You're not just fresh out of college, and you see it in a lot of different trades, and especially in entrepreneurs trying to convince themselves that what they have in their head is right. Right? It's like they're selling themselves, and a lot of times there's, that and reality are parallel. They're not of the same.
Yep.
Right? So what would you say to someone that is convincing themselves that doing a subdivision that will have a few lots in front of a river or a waterfront would be such a big monetary value? What in your opinion is the real impact from a monetary standpoint of having a front and implications, whatever you can think of to say with that in regards of having a waterfront view to a lot? Like, does it really double the valuation of it? Is it more desirable? Will something like right in the back of that lot, for example, that doesn't have the front acreage, will sell for, I don't know, half, or will not be as desirable? What are your thoughts about those type of lots?
Oh yeah, I think I live in Charleston, South Carolina, so there's a lot of water. I'm looking out my window right here, and there's a water lot across the street from mine.
I hate you.
And I know, but I don't live on the water.
I love water. Okay.
Get the water, and I'm mad because I want to be over there, and it's double the value, And I should have bought a lot when it was a lot cheaper, and I didn't. So
really double, Lynda?
Oh yeah, like
okay.
Yeah, double, but not necessarily in every scenario, right? You have to look at where you're at. I mean, Charleston, it's different than if you're in Alabama or you're on a creek or, whatever it is. This is just a big giant river, like a deep water. It looks like a lake. So I think you just have to consider, what area you're in and where's the comps? Are they selling? Show me that piece that's on the water.
Yeah, there's no comps. That's really the issue, because if there were comps, then it would be a no-brainer, right?
Oh.
So I'm like, listen, an appraisal is also going to find out there's no comps, right? So it's not like we have comps and this is
Right.
like a no-brainer. It's not a straightforward scenario.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, to your opinion, of guidelines, general, strategy of approaching it, things like that.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to add, but
Yeah, that's fine. Not having an answer, I don't know, is also an answer. Uh, I'm just yeah, joking. So, wow, um, our time came to an end, and it was an absolute delight. Um, I see you at best twice a year, right? In Owners Club. So, I am just really fortunate and grateful to be able to connect with you again and see you and say hi. Um, I am very thankful for you coming on the podcast. If people would love to get a hold of you, what would be the best way to do it? Like maybe social media? What's your preferred method of engagement for people to find you?
yes, probably social media. My Instagram handle is Lynda the Landlady, and it's spelled Lynda Lynda. Lynda the Landlady. So that's pretty easy to remember. You can find me there. And thank you for having me. You've been such a inspiration to so many of us in this community, and you constantly are giving back and helping. And you're so busy. Like I'm not sure would be on this podcast if I was as busy as you are helping someone like me and helping others in the community. But I really appreciate you taking the time and appreciate all that you're doing for this community. Can't wait to see you on that stage at Squat Up. You're going to kill it.
Thank you so much. I look forward to both seeing you, saying hi.
Yes.
I'm a hugger. I mean, good or bad. I'm 6'2". I'm a big guy. So some people are really small. So getting a hug from me, it's like a grizzly bear's hugging you. So I'll give you that hug for sure. Giving you the heads up next time I see you. And yeah, the biggest joy for me is not making money. Is actually pouring in people's cups and seeing them doing good. I had this conversation about with someone very successful in our community that I helped with, and I don't go out publicly say I helped her, I helped him, and they were like, "Why are you helping me?" I'm like, "This is why." Yeah, I'm not to go out on social media and say I help because I really love them and I derive a lot of joy from helping people that I care for. So no need to thank me. I'm doing it for myself. It brings me joy. I'm very selfish. Thank you so much, Lynda.
Thank you. It was great to see you, and we'll see you in a few weeks.